This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.
Kia ora, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of Headscarves and Good Yarns. I am really excited for y'all to listen to this one. It's been a hot minute since I've interviewed someone on the podcast, and I had such a wonderful kōrero with Qin Qin. Qin Qin came onto my radar when I read her book, Moral Minority Gone Rogue, how an unfulfilled daughter of a tiger mother went way off script. And it was an amazing book. It's like, I really want y'all to read the book for yourself, but it's, Qin Qin's like journey of radical self-discovery, where at the beginning of the book, she goes by Lisa and is like an amazing lawyer, ticking off all of the metrics of success in that way. And then, the story is really her about unlearning the script of what it means to be a model minority and redefine success and reclaim like her authenticity. And so, using Qin Qin's own experience, we, can navigate things like race and gender and class and migration and identity and mental health and inequality. And it is such a juicy book to read, juicy in the sense that there's a lot of food for thought and a lot to sink into. And so our conversation is, very much shaped by the book, but us two girlies, we went off to random tangents talking about all things race, diversity and inclusion, and it was an awesome conversation. So I hope you enjoy, but I just wanted to put a disclaimer in there. Towards the end of the interview, we do talk about intimate partner violence, and I want to give you a heads up so you can choose to skip that part, you can choose to pause. You have every agency over your well-being and your mental health. So please take care when it comes to that part of our kōrero, but enjoy the episode ahead. On the show, honestly, such a honor. Thank you so much for replying to my random cold email from, I think it was almost a year ago now.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so honored. And I have to pay it back because my whole writing journey actually started with a cold email. So good on you.
There's magic that comes from the cold emails. Before we get into the fire conversation that I know that we're about to have, would love to know a little bit more about you. So please introduce yourself in whatever way makes you feel comfortable. You can keep it as light, as deep as you want. Tell me about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much, Mal. So my name is Qin Qin. I am talking to you from the lands of the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people in Canberra, Australia, and I pay my respects to the elders here, past and present, and acknowledge all the ancestors and everyone who has brought us to this moment today. Amen. Yeah. There's so much going on that we can't see, right? And that's part of my journey. I've come from, I guess, being the good Asian daughter, and now I'm talking about unseen spirits and having a great yarn today. And that's basically my journey of going off script from being not who I thought I was expected to be, but trying to be more of who I am. I'm still discovering who that is. But part of it is acknowledging that I am loved and I can be good enough just as I am.
I love that. And the reason why I'm saying I love that for you is because I read the book, and even reading the book, it's amazing seeing your journey and how much unraveling and how much unlearning and learning that you do. So even though I don't personally know you, just even from reading the book, I'm proud that you've said that. That's amazing.
Thanks. And I do have to say then, I did write a book and it's called Model Minority Gone Rogue.
An amazing book. Y'all all need to read it. If you haven't read it after listening to this episode, y'all need to get onto it. I want to get to know you just a little bit more. So I've got some quick fire questions. No need to think deeply. Just say whatever comes to your heart and mind first.
Awesome.
So, what's something that recently made you pause or rethink something you believed?
Wow, that's a big one. Rethinking and undoing things I feel like I do that every day, but one of the big ones most recently was I didn't even realize, and this is going straight into the deep end.
I love that. I'll go to the deep end with you.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear what yours is too, but I know these are quick fire. Okay, the quick fire answer is I realized I was attached to being surrounded by people who disappointed me. And that is like, whoa,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe that was such a subconscious script.
Damn, as a recovering people pleaser, I see you. That's a huge thing to realize.
Yeah.
Okay, one part of me really wants to unpack that more, but in the nature of the quick fire, we'll keep moving, but I'm sure we'll circle back to that.
We'll just leave it hanging a bit.
What's a small thing that gives you big joy right now?
Oh my gosh. If anyone, I don't know anyone like that doesn't have a dog they just love so much. Like my dog, her name is Oprah. She's a golden retriever. She just has, her ears are the softest, like velvet, just like touching her ears. It's just the best.
It's so sweet. I love animals so much. I don't have any pets myself, but whenever we house it and we look after animals, I'm like, oh, this is the cutest. So thank you for sharing your joy with us. Next one. What's a social norm we really need to let go of?
That's a good one. Lots of unlearning questions here. The big one, I am so bad at replying to texts and emails. That is a social norm that has to go, that like if someone doesn't reply to an email, we can't take it personally because they probably have stuff going on. And also maybe we can share the mental load and like just be like, just following up or hope things are okay, bumping this up. I know you're busy.
Amen. I was talking about this the other day with a friend. And just like the expectation to just always be on, it's a lot. So I like that. I'm with you on that one. This one I love because I am a reality TV show junkie. I love like really shitty TV shows. So what reality show, like you'd crush it? You'd be out the gate winning it, or you'd immediately get kicked off?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love that you love reality TV too. I'm such a fan. I want to hear your fave, but I love Too Hot to Handle. I would suck at it so much, but I would love to be on, maybe just like behind the scenes as a camera person so I could just get in on the drama but not actually be on.
Girl, on a show like that,
how about you?
Would see it all. I think for me, maybe something like Big Brother. I don't know how far I would go, but just like those types of shows where you're just like,
oh, that's cool.
Bubble, I think that would be fun.
Yeah. You would try and like understand everyone.
I would. I'd be that housemate where people would be like, oh, Mom's coming, she's got a question for me. But I really would. You have a chaos button. Press it and one harmless, silly thing happens in the world. What is it?
Wow. I'm thinking, what would be the most crazy thing someone like Trump could respond to and have him just completely be astounded? Like maybe a whole bunch of baby animals coming out at him, like a baby giraffe and a baby like a puppy or a kitten or even like a baby elephant as he was doing a serious like rally. How would he respond
to that?
Or for anyone. Yeah. What if right now there were just like a million butterflies that came into our room?
That would be amazing. I think that would be A, chaotic, yes, but B, that'd be so magical and wonderful. I think the world would definitely be a better place.
Yeah,
I love
hope
that.
so.
Oh my gosh, thank you for the quick fire. I feel like we got a little bit more textures about who you are as a person.
Yes,
And
I
I'm sure we'll
love
get more
that.
textures as we get more into the conversation. I think a really natural place to start would be talking about the book. And I don't actually want to talk about the book too much because I want, if you're listening to this, I want y'all to read it. But it's been about a year and a half since the book has come out, because it came out last year, March, right? Somewhere around there.
Yes, that's right.
How has the response to the book, what has the response been like? And I think for me, I'm particularly interested to hear about the response from the communities that you identify with and are from, but it doesn't have to be specific to that, but like just in general, what has the response to the book been like? Because it's your life and you bear it all. You're so vulnerable with it, which I think is so amazing. So yeah, I'd be curious to hear what the response to the book has been.
Thank you. Thanks, Amal. Because it is a memoir, it is about my life, and I do tell it truthfully in a way that for someone, I'm from a Chinese Australian background, and as someone who grew up in that culture, telling the truth wasn't really valued or encouraged, especially to the wider world or even outside my own family. So there is that. I mean, the community response to that actually has been so amazing because why did I write a memoir in the first place? It's because books, and especially memoirs too, I came to them out of a desperate need to feel like things were okay and to be seen and to know that the people writing them were voicing things that no one around me dared to say, but that spoke to my experiences. And so I've gotten feedback from readers, which is incredible, that they feel seen as well. And they don't have to look like me. I grew up on white authors, and they reflected my experience because the specific is universal. The specific being universal is one of the key things about writing, What was my experience as a queer, ethnic minority, Chinese-born immigrant to Australia? And not only that response, but a year and a half later, I still can't quite believe that I have this book, and it's meant that I've been able to have conversations like these that I would never be able to have and meet people that I vibe with just like, you cold emailed me. Like, how crazy is that? And even from our pre-interview chat, we just got along so well. We just went straight in the deep end. So that's been so heartwarming. And at the same time, though, I don't want to discount that it has been hard having the memoir out. And why I say that is because I wrote the book to try and go off script, right? To try and not be so good and not get the gold stars. But what is the world of publishing? It's all about sales figures.
About getting the gold stars.
It's all about, well, literally on Goodreads, what are the ratings, right?
Yes,
gold stars. Oh my gosh. So I feel like I was kind of like, I had to not think about that when I was writing, and then I got into it and I was pretty psychologically underprepared for that whole journey of like being the author persona and feeling pressure to be on again and like keep up the sales or like get those awards and things like that I was trying to get away from. So that's another thing that I'm making peace with. That one of my musician friends, actually, he told me, like, art and industry are like oil and water and they shouldn't mix, but they have to. And that's what I'm trying to grapple with now, like how I can put my art into the world while it be in a commercial capital focused way that's reliant on sales figures.
That is a tricky one, I feel like. And I think your friend has made a really good analogy there, because art or just storytelling, it really
it connects on like such a human level, which is why I like what you said about the specific being universal. And how can you even quantify that in terms of sales or just any kind of number? I don't know how the magic of storytelling can be reflected in that. So I can understand that that'd be a really hard thing to navigate, especially when it's not just any old book, like it's your life. It's your life captured in a book as well. That must be really hard to navigate. I really want to run with what you said about the specific being universal, because I can imagine when you're writing a book and it's about your life and you have all of these identities that are often quite marginalized. Did you ever feel that pressure of representation, or did writing this book change your perception of what representation looks like?
Yeah, I mean, as a person of color, we're always, I can't speak for anyone else, but, well, yeah, that's the whole point of representation, right? I can't speak for anyone else. But I am, as a person of color, lumped in to try and represent like all the other multicultural people. And it's one thing it's so exhausting. Anyone that's a person of color, I'm sure you'd relate. Like I had one author talk where the marketing literally was two multicultural authors speak about being multicultural.
Oh, no way!
And it was so cringy. It was really bad. So luckily I was able, the other author and myself were able to change that. But yeah, even if I don't feel like, of course I can't represent every single person that is a person of color. And I have a real cute disclaimer on that at the beginning of the book, that Asian Australians are viewed as monolithic in the West, whereas there's so many different versions of being Asian, but the publishing world doesn't see it that way, right? The publishing world is just like, here's a diverse author. And you can see that right a mile from, I don't know what it's like in New Zealand, maybe it's the same, but any Asian woman that has a memoir, chances are there's a very, very high chance, what is the cover going to feature? A picture of a little Asian girl.
Actually,
why?
Now that you said that, I'm like, oh, a couple of books are coming to mind.
Yeah. Like, why is that the trope? That's that whole representation thing, right? It's like the book can be completely about going rogue and going off script, and the cover is still the same because we're supposed to represent the Asian woman. So there's still a lot there. But, you know, things I have to say that for me representation is tricky, not only because of my race, but because of so many intersectionalities of how I even got to publish a book in the first place. And I'd be remiss not to mention how privileged I am to be able to even freaking write a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, when so many immigrants and people of colour and marginalised people are just struggling to survive.
That is very true. I think there's a lot of surviving in the migrant story. And I think it makes it even more important that you were able to write a book and hopefully be able, you know, of course, we're not all the same and we're not all monolithic, and there's just no way to put that, you know, it'd be very unfair to put that expectation on you that you capture everyone's stories. But hopefully in the fact that you have written a book and your story is out there, that it reflects, you know, shards of other stories that's affirming and empowering and healing to read. I think representation is a tricky one, because ideally we wouldn't even need that word anyway, because everyone would be able to be seen for their full humanity. But unfortunately, in the world that we live in, the systems that exist, that is not true. So I can, you know, that representation is needed, but I feel like representation should just be a step in liberation, because, you know, sometimes visibility doesn't automatically equate to that liberation. Yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking of representation, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think it will take for all of us to be seen for our full humanity?
Wow, I love that question because that gets to the heart of what it is we're doing, what it is that I am doing in discovering who I truly am, right? What would it take for us all to be seen in our true humanity? That is when we can like say hallelujah and there's peace on earth, right? Oh my gosh, like that, what a vision to have, because right now that absolutely is not happening. And part of that is also like my internalized racism, my internalized misogyny, like how much I've been brainwashed to not like who I am or see other people that look like me and know that there's a part of me that has been conditioned to see them as competition or like to have those stereotypes foisted onto them that I don't want to believe in, but because they've been played out so much that I can't see except through the lens of white supremacy. And there is such grief in that, right? Like, I remember, I mean, feminists, you know, white women talk about the male gaze and how when you look in the mirror as a woman, you just see how, like, a man might see you. But we have so many other lenses, right? I look in the mirror and I can see how, like, a white man might see me, a white woman might see me, how I should sound to them. And is that really me? Like, how can we get rid of those masks when they are so, when half the time I don't even know they exist? It's taken me a long time to even see so many of the things that have blocked me from myself and others. So what will it take? I mean, it'll take continued revolutions, both inner and outer. Conversations like this where we can be open-hearted and vulnerable and real with each other. And undo, what I mentioned before about undo those scripts of not speaking out the truth because of how we've been programmed. Like, yeah.
I really, really like how you framed that, because the way that you frame that, you're talking about how you have internalized all of the different gazes that we have grown up with, and it's actually scary how it's just like weaved into the fabric of our life and the way that we live, and it's weaved in so seamlessly we just can't even tell that it's there. And the way that you frame that, another reason why I really like that is because now we can take ownership of undoing that and always asking ourselves the question of, well, what lens am I looking through right now? And I think there's a lot of power in taking ownership of that, because the world will always try to tell you something else. But once you've taken ownership of that, like, that's a responsibility that no one can ever take away from you. And I think it's a responsibility which asks for a lot of curiosity and empathy and courage, because, you know, these conversations, they're not easy. They're just really not. They can be uncomfortable most of the time. So I really like how you framed that. So thank you for your insights.
Thank you, Amal. We're vibing. I mean, I just want to play off what you just said there too, because absolutely, yeah, they're hard, but they can also be so much energy that comes from them, right? And joy. And actually what you say about like taking ownership of them, like, and having that awareness, like, awareness is the opposite of denial. And how do you get out of denial? It is actually, I've heard it said like face punches, which is basically the way of like saying crises, right? Like, actually the next time you have a crisis coming up in your life, which is inevitable, especially in this time of crazy chaos, it's a chance to remove those masks and be more aware of like what is happening. And the person that you think you are has to go. And in that moment is a chance for something else to come in that you can see differently.
That is, I like that idea of a face punch, because it definitely, that's sort of,
You like it?
I think my brain is like, oh, I physically can see that image there. That imagery is very strong. But I think with everything that is happening in the world right now, it definitely is so many face punches happening at the same time that I feel like it's putting us in this position where it's like, well, what kind of world do we want to see? Like, what script am I going to follow here? What mask am I going to let go of? So even though, yes, times are very scary and there's just a lot of not so great things happening at the moment, I think this is an opportunity to unlearn and learn again. And speaking of scripts and masks, a lot of the book is talking about this model myth minority, or just like relearning and unlearning the scripts that this myth dictates. And I think, when I first heard of the term, I can't remember how long ago it was. I feel like the awareness around what the model minority myth is out there. But now that you've written the book, and now that we're living in 2025, what conversations do you think we need to be having around the model minority myth?
Yeah, thanks. The model minority myth, I mean, you'd think by 2025 we'd be having different conversations. But in Australia, yeah, the racial consciousness and racial literacy here is way not as advanced as in somewhere like the US. So even just educating people on what is a minority myth is the starting point, even at this late stage of humanity's evolution. But what conversations I would love to have, not just like far beyond the model minority myth, is about just like what kind of reality am I actually living in, that forces me to see other Asian people as hardworking, success-driven, obedient, assimilated, not rocking the boat, kind of machines, right? There is such a like robotic element to the Asian myth. And it didn't just start from the model minority myth. It started from in Australia, and in the US, the Chinese who came as gold diggers, and they were always seen as the really hard-working ones. And it was that hard work that the white people really resented, because it meant that they could take all the gold that the white people thought didn't have any more gold, or like they would have that yellow peril. Yeah, and going back to like how would just your question, how would reality look if we saw each other just as the flawed human beings that we are? I mean, maybe that is a good start, that we could, beyond any racial stereotypes, what would it be like to go out into the world if I walked out of my house today and I saw someone in the freshness of the moment beyond their physical selves? I mean, that's pretty radical, isn't it?
And it sounds insane that is radical. You know what I'm saying? That sounds insane that it is radical. I suppose just hearing what you were saying now, I would love to hear how, just to give this conversation a bit more groundedness, especially if, where what you were saying earlier about that racial literacy not quite being there, because I agree with you. It's the same here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Like, we don't actually talk about race very much the same way that it's spoken about in the States. I suppose, how has the model myth minority, how does it show up in your like day-to-day now compared to, I don't know, maybe when you were younger and you weren't so aware of the impacts that it had in your life, or you were still kind of very much following that script? Like, what's the contrast there and how it showed up in your day-to-day? And the reason why I ask this is if there's anyone listening and they're like, damn, this sounds really interesting, but I'm not actually too sure how it shows up in my life. I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, you know, if I think about it, like, I was an actor, right? And I was trying to be the good model minority. Before, if I was the actor, my script would be like, I have to get the good, successful job without questioning. Even if there's a small, tiny voice in my head that's like, wait, I don't want to study law and accounting. I hate maths. And I love art and ideas, and like, maybe I want to be an actor, but it doesn't matter because that doesn't factor into my career decision. So then it would look like me going to study accounting and then me going to be a lawyer and feeling just like I would look out the window and want to be one of the window washers because I hated my job so much. Right? Or like taking a lot of Xanax because I didn't know how else to cope with it. And I look back on Qin Qin at that time and I was still, and it would look like having an assimilated name. So my name was Lisa back then, right? Yeah. And I look back on Lisa, you know, that was what? Oh my gosh, 2010. So 15 years ago now. And she had so successfully imbibed that racial stereotype that, yeah, me as Lisa the corporate lawyer, I didn't realize that the race stuff was such a part of my decisions. I just blamed myself. And I think that's really common, the melancholy or the depression or the anxiety that like an immigrant could feel. In our systems, we're taught to blame ourselves, right? It's not the structure. It's not anyone's fault but my own, and I need to just do the healing and do some breath work. And how does it look like now? It's me trying to actively deprogram from the scripts, and connecting in solidarity with people who are doing the same thing. Decolonizing is a lifelong program of deprogramming.
Yes, I get you. It's forever going to be a forever thing. I want to thank you for being so open about that. And I suppose now, you know, because it is a lifelong thing, are there, you know, I'm curious to hear from you, what were one of the like hardest scripts to unlearn? And even now, do you find yourself slipping back into that script at all?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many. One of the big ones, it's not just about race. I guess this is about being a woman or in a world that treats us as machines, productivity machines, right? But that I have to be productive or I have to be well. You know, are Asians allowed to be disabled? Or is anyone allowed to be young and disabled or rest? And of course I'm allowed to, but do I really believe that deep down inside? And if I did, then why do I have to keep working so hard, right? Like, maybe I can tell myself, like, I want to work hard now because it's for a different cause. Like, it's for my writing. It's for seeking the truth. It's for connecting with people like you, Amal. But at the same time, I can't, that pace isn't sustainable. I have to slow down. Like, I have long COVID at the moment and it's forced me to again reassess, like, that script of I have to be productive and well to to be acceptable.
I feel like that would be a really, really hard script to let go of. Like, even just hearing you talk about that, I was like, oh gosh, I think I felt that in my body, because also being a child of migrant parents, that's a really hard one, because you are, carrying the dreams and expectations of your parents, and it's really hard because my parents have sacrificed so much for us kids, and
Yes.
there's been so much hard work and sacrifice to get us to where we are now. It's weird. I think there's like that layer there of being a migrant and working hard, because I feel like, I don't know about your community, but definitely for my parents, it's like thrive mode. It's really survive mode. Sorry, it's really hard to be in thrive mode. But then also there's that layer of just like the capitalistic modern world that we live in, and expecting 40 hours of work from everyone every week, I think is a lot. I don't know how we're meant to actually live outside of that. So that would be a really, really hard script to unlearn and to completely let go of.
But you know what? Yeah, and it is possible. And sacrifice, man, that word, right? But you know what? What do we owe our parents? I asked this question I did this leadership talk to some Asian Australians recently, and I gave them some time to write down their answers. What do you feel like you owe your parents? Because you talked about all the sacrifices they made, right? And they wrote them down, and then it came up that, wow, I owe them like a good job, like children, a house, just everything. And what is that? A good job, a relationship, children. That's my life. Do I owe my parents, because of their sacrifices, my own life? I don't think that's right either, right? And yeah.
It's a really, really tough one. I think when I was younger, I thought that that's what my parents expected of me. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that at the end of the day, they just want all of us kids to be happy and to have a secure future. But I think it's because of things like the model minority myth, and all these other things that are happening in our systems. It puts these pressures, and then I think that's where that kind of expectation comes from. And I'm not saying that's the same for everyone. Like, now I'm saying this out loud, and I definitely know people where their parents do expect the job and the kids, and that's not for everyone. But I think, and I can only speak for my experience, I think that's what I thought my parents wanted from me.
Exactly. And you know what? Once you start putting it out on paper or saying it out loud, and then you see the shoulds, after that, the crisis might come, and you realize those shoulds of, I should have a good high earning job, I should be married and have kids by now, whatever. At a certain point, the crisis, and I know this in my own life, meant that those shoulds became couldn'ts. I couldn't anyway. So it just showed just how untrue that was in the first place. I couldn't have the high profile job anymore. I couldn't work 80 hours a week as a corporate lawyer. I couldn't find a husband that was actually good for me because I kept attracting dickheads. So life shows me what is true and untrue, actually.
And I really like how you phrased that. And I hope that if, for people who are kind of in the unfurling point of their life, or you're kind of experiencing reeling back from a face punch, that you can quieten the noise of the systems that, often have the loudest voices, that you can quieten the noise of those systems and those experiences, that then you can find what is true and untrue for your own life, because it will look different to everyone, which I've really, really liked how you phrased that.
Amen. Yes, it is in the reeling from the face punch, in that moment of that quiet, that voice can come out that has been hidden by those loud things, right? And for me, that happened because that voice was like, who are you beyond other people's expectations? And who could you be if you didn't have to listen to all of that crap?
And the answer to that, ain't nobody going to be able to tell you except for yourself.
Exactly, yes. And you can't find it in a book because I tried. I literally read a book called What Should I Do With My Life? And I'm like, oh, why can't they just give me the 10-point plan? And it doesn't happen like that. Yeah.
I love that. So we've been talking about the myth and how the system kind of keeps us. I feel like one thing about especially the model minority myth is that it's like we're hamsters, and it just keeps you on the wheel and you just keep working, you're not thinking about anything else. And we've been talking a lot about that so far, but I really want to go from the individual, yourself, to community. And like a lot of your book is about your unfurling and like saying bye-bye to law and healing after abuse. And I wonder how, like, the personal unfurling and the personal learning and unlearning, how can we connect that to other people and to community? Because just the conversations that I've been having, like in my own personal circle, when we talk about this model minority myth, and then somehow the conversations always end up talking about how there's like anti-blackness within the Asian community. What does solidarity look like? What does allyship look like in the Asian community? And I just wonder, from your perspective, like, how can the personal become communal, and how is there space for that vulnerability and the joy and the rage and all of the other emotions that that can be felt on the human spectrum, because they're all, I think, relevant to this. How can we I think essentially what I'm trying to ask is, how do you think the model minority myth makes it hard for that sense of collectivism in the Asian community? And again, I know that you can't speak for everyone, but I just would love to hear your personal 2 cents.
Thank you. That's such a beautiful way of framing the question. The model minority myth harms communities and prevents non-white people from being in allyship and solidarity, and that's by design. That's the whole reason the myth was created, so that white people could say, hey, look at these non-white people. How come you're not like them? And Asian people went on board with that because they were like, oh, yeah, we're getting some of the master's attention now because we've become like the ugly schoolgirl that has turned hot for a minute and has the attention of the white person who wants us now, whereas they don't want the other non-white people because we're supposed to be like more hardworking than them. So it's like, it's by design that Asian communities can be so racist. And it's by design that there are so many intersecting and interlocking systems of oppression, right? It's like Bell Hooks said.
Oh, I love Bell Hooks.
Like, you can't talk about yeah, exactly. You can't talk about white supremacy in isolation. It's a white supremacist capitalist patriarchy. And until we, like, it sounds at this point both essential and overwhelming to know that we have to dismantle it. But where does it start, right? Yes, of course, it can start with going to rallies, or it can start with writing things. But on a smaller level, how can that dismantling start? By seeing it within myself. Where is my inner Nazi? And how can I, actually be honest enough to admit that I have one? And to start from there. Or even, how have I benefited and how am I complicit in these systems that still keep going on? Look at us. We're talking on Zoom, on our computers with tech and internet access. Just because we're women of color doesn't mean we can't just be as horrible to marginalized and oppressed people. And at the same time, starting from a recognition there means that the grief process can start. It can mean there's a reckoning process that begins. It can mean that there's an apology that can start happening. Even if that's a prayer of I'm so sorry for all the ways that I've hurt and harmed you without realizing. And that's to the world and myself and to the people close to me.
Oh my, you said so much there. There's so much to unpack. And I think I want to acknowledge your your openness, because these types of conversations, there's a level of being aware enough to acknowledge that, yes, in many ways, because of the identities that you have, there are ways that the system harms you, but there's also in your same being, there's ways where, you're participating in a system that does harm to others as well. And so confronting that is a lot. And I think one question that I have to kind of follow up on what you said is, how do we make space for that messiness and that rage? And there's just so much contradiction as well in the Asian diaspora story, especially when the model minority myth very much feeds that story of, well, you are good and you should be grateful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even you just saying that brings up my inner rage, because that is imagine the pressure. That pressure led to me to so much chronic pain and teeth gritting, that I didn't even realize. But how do we make space for that? Because it is messy. Yes, absolutely. But any kind of growth and change is messy, right? And hard. Who wants to get out of bed on a cold morning when it's so nice and cozy in the dunas? No one wants to wake up. You don't want to wake up until you have to, right? Going back to the face punches. I didn't wake up until I was forced to because of different crises. And now I realize that pain, that continual pain, is never going to go away. And maybe I can just embrace it. Can I embrace that pain and that uncertainty and the continual hard work and the messiness, knowing that it's one continuous showdown facing up to what I don't want to see. It's I was talking just recently with a friend about this. We haven't mentioned fear. You've mentioned rage, which is obviously a huge part of being more conscious, but fear as well, right? So much of the model minority myth is fear driven. So much of our stereotypes or our scripts of who we should be are driven by fear of not disappointing others or not being who I am. And what is the antidote to fear, or what is something that will displace fear? And of course, part of that is love, but love by itself isn't enough when it's just hearts and, and sunshine and flowers. There's like, my friend mentioned, it's fortified love. It's love that's fortified by rage, by grounded rage in statistics, in evidence, in real stories, in truth. It's that love fortified by rage that can displace fear and can displace and help us to accept the messiness that comes with waking up.
I'm actually a little bit stunned right now. You've taken me away with your words. I really like that idea of fortified love, because I think there's of course, this whole process is emotional. I think when people talk about like activism or showing up as an ally, like, yes, education is important and having the information is really important, but it actually most of the time is a very emotional journey, because you're right, there is a lot of fear when it comes to confronting those stereotypes. There will be grief, there will be rage, there will be all of these emotions. So I think that's a really awesome way of wording that, the fact that it's fortified love. That is, I haven't heard that before. That is really, really special. And I like that, the idea of fortified love, with what you're saying before about it's an ongoing showdown, because this is for life. But I think if you do have that sense of fortified love, that will keep you going. That will be your fuel. That will be your accountability buddy. Like, it will be everything, that fortified love. Just talking about culture and unlearning and learning, and I think one thing that has really come up for me, especially in like the past 5 years, is being critical, but also like wanting to, for lack of a better word, protect my culture. And I wanted to know from your perspective, is, this, what's the push and pull like for you between wanting to critique and protect, and like, do you carry any guilt about how Asian enough or like loyal enough you are?
That's such a good one, because of course there could be feelings of betrayal, like I'm going against the don't talk, don't trust, don't tell that Chinese culture has done to survive, right? It's a survival mechanism. Like, you just keep on your head down and keep working hard. And at the same time, I realize I'm not Chinese, I'm not Australian, I'm Chinese Australian. And that in itself is a unique category that I can be proud of. And it takes from being Chinese and Australian, whatever that means, to be this amalgamation. And I'm learning more about Chinese Australians and our history, and connecting with that identity more.
I like the fact that it's essentially a new culture, which is it's an amalgamation. I'm in a similar boat with being Kiwi Somali, and I don't know, my husband's Chinese Malaysian, but also has spent a really long time here in Aotearoa. I don't know, our kids are going to have even more of an amalgamation of a culture there.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, I think it's a hard space to navigate, because I definitely, for me growing up, I really didn't know the language for it at the time, but I think I internalized a lot of that racism, and so anything that would make me feel that proximity to whiteness, I embraced. And part of that, getting closer to whiteness, it was really degrading my own culture and not valuing it. And, as I've learned to decolonize, and again, it's a forever thing, I've realized that, it's really important for me to, protect and be proud of who I am. But it's strange, like, navigating that, but also realizing that I don't think I will ever entirely be 100% Somali.
And that's okay because there's this really big Kiwi influence.
Exactly. That's such a good point because, like you, I was the same. I've been push-pull either or. Like, I went back to China to try and find my roots and try and like be way more Chinese and learn Chinese and work there. And over there, people were just like, okay, well, you're not really one of us either, right? And I never will be. And that's okay. I'm part of, and it's part of me. Yes, it is hard. And also how exciting those possibilities of you and your husband and whatever future family you might have. And the same, my husband, he's from 2 other cultures too. He's biracial. And ultimately, yeah, it's all part of the messiness that I've tried to push away because I want to compartmentalize everything so that, like, I was trained as a lawyer. That's like black and white thinking, right? Like everything can be dot points. And that's not how life works, unfortunately. And fortunately, right? Because like things that are contained, that are static, that aren't changing, they're dead. The things that are, the things that are messy, that are like hard to put into words, that are contradictions, that are misleading, that are like irritating for my brain because it doesn't get, that's what's truly alive. And what I want to like go more deeper into, because in that aliveness, that is where, that's where all the good things can come from.
And may we always strive for that good place with fortified love.
Yes.
I honestly could talk to you forever and ever, but time is running low. But there is one really important thing that I do want to discuss with you, if you're comfortable and open to going there. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I know that you're not the only person, unfortunately, that has experienced this. And I think, intimate partner violence is very much kept in the dark. And when things are kept in the dark, there's no, it's like a wound, like it will fester and there's no way to heal. Like, and we need that openness for healing and to let go of that shame that usually surrounds it. And I think when people talk about their experiences, I don't know, I think there's a lot of power in that, because you never know what that could do for someone else, just hearing another person's experience. And so if you are open and comfortable, what with what you experienced, what made you realize that what was happening to you was not love, or it wasn't passion?
I mean, yes, it's hard. And also people come to expect, right, listeners of this podcast, real conversations about things that matter. And yeah, intimate partner violence, unfortunately, and coercive control is so much more common than you think. In Australia, I learned recently that the second highest number of callers to the domestic violence hotline were Indian women. And they don't even number as much as white women. And who knows, that's maybe because they speak English better than the Asian or Chinese women. And you know that you have to be in a really bad place to have to call a hotline. And I got to that place, actually. It was only after many pretty distressing episodes, some I write in the book, that I realized I had a really high tolerance for someone treating me really, really badly. And not only a tolerance, I never thought I could leave until my doctor told me, and it took a healthcare professional, because maybe back then there weren't the words, we didn't have the language. Now it's more common to know that domestic violence, words like gaslighting, symptoms, he would tell me how much money I could spend, and different forms of violence we understand now more. But yeah, for me, it did take a medical professional, and I hope it doesn't always have to come to that. At the same time, what are we doing that makes men, and it is mostly men, like try and treat women as punching bags, whether emotionally or physically? And what is this like? Is it like this kind of existential, spiritual sickness that we have in our society, which makes us really disconnected from our humanity? And I know I keep coming back to it, but Amal, your question about what would it take for all of us to be seen as fully human, is that not the antidote to domestic violence as well?
That is very, very true. The connectedness there. And yeah, thank you so much for opening up about this, because I think, even you never know, someone could be listening to this and this could be the start of them asking for themselves. And I suppose on the other side of it, then, what practices or people help to rebuild your sense of safety and self? Because, suffering abuse is a lot. And how did you rebuild your sense of safety and your sense of self?
Yeah, it is rebuilding. And part of that is because I had lost that sense of self, I was more open to being someone different, which was part of a spiritual experience that took place after I was able to leave him. And I went on a whole journey. I would never have thought I would do yoga or meditation. For me, that was kind of like the annoying thing someone said if I told them I couldn't sleep properly. Oh, have you tried meditating? But yeah, it took those kind of spiritual practices and nourishing, and also the usual, like, I would say, don't shy away from the medications you need to take. I had to go on some psychologists, all the usual stuff that is generally taboo in our cultures, in migrant cultures, the mental health spaces. And beyond that, the spiritual, like through yoga and meditation and other healing modalities.
Thank you for normalizing.
Oh, and writing. Yes.
Writing is healing.
Yes.
For me,
yes.
I love to write. Yep. Writing is so healing. But I was just saying thank you for normalizing what is normally kept in the dark or shrouded in shame or is taboo. Thank you for normalizing that. I don't even think we understand like the power in you just doing what you just did. So thank you.
Thank you for asking.
I really wish I could talk to you forever and ever and ever, but this whole podcast actually has to come to an end. But I wanted to finish on your words and on your power, because I love your brain and your heart and the way that you look at the world. And if you, Qin Qin, had a megaphone to speak to the whole entire world for 30 seconds, what would you say?
Wow, that's a big one. Let me take a moment and a breath. I would say there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. And if no one has told you today that you matter and that you are good enough and that there is a space within you that is pure love, peace, and joy, then I hope let it be me. And you can always connect to that space within yourself if you can listen to that quiet, still voice within. I wish you peace, and I know that you are loved.
Thank you for tuning in into another episode of Headscarves and Good Yarns. To keep spinning the yarns, let us know your thoughts. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Headscarves and Good Yarns, or email us at headscarvesandgoodyarn@gmail.com.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.